Hello, my lovely viewer. Nice to meet you or nice to see you here again. It's me, Ksenia. And for today, as I promised, we're gonna speak about the pronunciation of the consonant sounds in Russian. But just before we start, I'd like to ask you, do you learn the material from the previous video? If you don't learn the previous material, alright, you can watch this video and learn how to pronounce the consonant sounds, but then it's obligate. Go back to the previous video, it will be right here, right now. Please learn all the groups and all the positions, because without this knowledge, you won't start pronouncing words correctly. There is no way to start pronouncing without knowing these positions. But now we can speak about the pronunciation of the consonant sounds. Let's start. And the first letter that I'm gonna speak about, it will be letter B. And first we will talk about its hard and soft sounds. So it will be B and B, B and B. So to pronounce the sounds, we very fast close and open our lips. This movement of our lips, even called explosion, because we move them very fast. B, 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 B. You see, I move my lips very fast. I close and open them. And now I'd like to tell you the difference in pronunciation of the hard and soft sounds. I will show you this as the sounds B and B, but this rule will be for each hard and soft sound. So the difference between hard sound B and soft sound B is the position of our tongue. When we pronounce sound B, we don't have to move our tongue in a special position. Works only our lips to pronounce this sound, and of course works the voice. But when we pronounce sound B, the soft sound, our tongue also starts working. So when we pronounce the soft sound, our tongue should be in the same position as it is in sound E. So with the help of our tongue, I'd like to remember you how we pronounce sound E. Do you remember that the body of the tongue, when we pronounce E, goes up to the palate and it almost touches it? So the same situation should be with pronouncing the soft sounds, each soft sounds of the consonants. Our tongue, the body of the tongue, should go up and touches the palate. So the difference between pronouncing B and B will be in the tongue position. When we pronounce B, our tongue left as it is. When we pronounce sound B, we move our tongue up. The body of the tongue almost touches the palate. And of course, to check this position, again, please touch your tongue to check. Take your finger and just touch it. So now we are ready to talk about another consonant sounds. And now, if we talk about voiced B and B sounds, we should talk about P and P, which is voiceless consonant sounds. And you'd remember that B with P and B with P is very similar to pronounce. All we need is just taking more voice, using more voice, or using less voice to pronounce them. So all the positions of our lips will be the same to pronounce sound P. We also use our lips, we close them and then fastly open. We make something like explosion. P, 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 b, 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 p, p, p. You see, we make the same positions of our lips, but just use less voice. P, p, p. The same situation will be with soft sound P. We also use our lips. We fastly close and open them to pronounce the sound. And we also put our tongue up. The body of the tongue almost touches the palate to make this soft sound P, P, P. Our tongue works when we pronounce soft sounds. The next sound, what I'd like to tell you about, is sound M and M. M and M. We also close our lips to pronounce the sound M, but we don't move our lips so fast. We don't make fast sounds. We don't say M, not like this. We close our lips, we pronounce the sounds, and only then we move our lips back, we open our mouth. So we have some seconds to pronounce sound M, 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 M. We close our lips, we pronounce the sound, and then only open the mouth. And as you already, I hope, understood, when we pronounce sound M, we make the same position with our lips. We pronounce the sound and then open the mouth. But our tongue in this position works. To pronounce M, we don't need to move our tongue. To pronounce M, we try to put our tongue, the body of the tongue, up to the palate to pronounce M, M, M. If it's hard for you to pronounce soft sounds, try this exercise. Try to pronounce firstly the sound in its hard way, for example, M, 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 and then pronounce sound E, M, E, M, E, M, E, and try to pronounce it faster and faster, me, 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 and then just throw away the sound E and try to pronounce only the soft M. So you try M, E, M, E, M, E, me, 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 me. So, and you will start to pronounce this sound me, 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 without this E. The next sound that we're gonna talk about has already another position of our lips, teeth, tongue, and so on. Now we don't only need our lips, we need already our upper row of the teeth and our lip. And the sound that we're gonna pronounce is sound V, 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 and the soft one V, 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 V. So, to pronounce this sound, we need to put our teeth, our upper row of the teeth, almost on our lip, but still we leave a little gap so the air could go through and we could pronounce. So we don't just put like this our teeth on the lip. We're just lightly touching the lip with our teeth to pronounce V, 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 V. And to pronounce V, here we need our tongue. We make the same positions with our teeth and lip, V, V, but we put our tongue up. And as you remember, V and V, they are voiced, so the pair of the voiced, voiceless sounds F and F, they will be pronounced in the same way as V and V, but we will use less voice for them. So again, we just touching with our upper row of the teeth the lip, leaving some gap to pronounce, and we use less voice to pronounce F, 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 and to pronounce F, We again put our tongue up to pronounce soft f. So the next sound, what we will talk about, it will be sounds d, d. For this sound, we already need another positions in our mouth. So to pronounce these sounds, we need to work with our tongue, and we will work with the apex of the tongue. And with the apex of the tongue, we need to touch our teeth. So our teeth are closed, and with the apex of the tongue, we are touching to pronounce the sound d, 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 d. We are touching the teeth, but we do it very fast. We just touch and move back, touch and move back very fast. D, 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 d. The same situation will be with d. The apex will be touched the teeth very fast, but the body of the tongue is up. So we pronounce d, 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 d. As you remember, d is voiced sound, and the pair for it is t, voiceless sound. So to pronounce t, we need the same position of our apex and teeth. We touching with the tongue, with the apex of the tongue very fast, our teeth, t, 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 and just using class voice to pronounce this sound. And to pronounce t, we make the same position, but our body of the tongue is up. So the next sound that we're gonna pronounce will be sound n and n, n and n. To pronounce these sounds, we again try to move our apex close to our teeth, and in this situation we just pushing our tongue to our teeth until we don't pronounce. So we say n, and then only our tongue moves back. We pronounce n, n, n. To pronounce n, we try the same position. We pushing with our apex the teeth, but the body of the tongue is up. N, n, n. The next sound that we're gonna talk about is sound l and l. I'd like to remember that n and l, they are not a pair, and for n and l, we don't have pairs as it was with voiced and voiceless, because there are no such pairs. But to pronounce n and l, we need quite close positions of our tongue and teeth. To pronounce sound l, we also need to touch with our apex, our teeth. But if to pronounce n, we moved very strongly, we pushed very strongly our tongue. So to pronounce l, we don't need push so much. We just very lightly touching the teeth with the apex. So we pronounce l, 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 l. And as you remember, the same situation will be with l. We make the same positions as it was with l, but just the body of the tongue goes up. To pronounce the next sound, we need quite the same position. Again, we take our apex and we move it forward to our closed teeth. But here we are not touching teeth with our apex. We leave a small gap between teeth and the apex of the tongue, so there will be some air, and we pronounce z, 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 z. The same situation will be for soft z. but the body of the tongue will be up. Z, 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 z. So sound z is voiced sound, and the pair for it is s, which is voiceless. We make the same position. We take our teeth, we take our apex, we move apex forward, but we are not touching the teeth, we leave some gap, and we just pronounce s with less voice. We say s, 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 s. And for s, we just move our body of the tongue up. S, 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 s. And the same situation will be with sound ts. We also move the apex of the tongue forward, almost touches the teeth but leaves some gap, and we pronounce t, 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 t. So t is hard sound, and it is from exception, and it doesn't have a pair with the soft sound. That's why I'm talking only about hard t. So the next sound, I think you've been waiting for it. It will be sound r, r, r. You'd remember that I said that I will give you the tip how to pronounce this sound, and I will give you it in this video. So to pronounce sound r, we need to work with our apex of the tongue, and the apex of the tongue should be moved up, and it should touching the palate of the tongue. And when you will be touching with the tongue your palate, try to touch there something like a heel. It will be close to your teeth. So we should touch this heel at the palate with our apex. And to pronounce the sound r, we should very fastly move our tongue, touching this heel, touching this palate. And then we will start pronouncing correctly. R, our tongue moves very fast and touching the heel of the palate. Something like this. So how to start pronouncing this sound? I will highly recommend you to make this exercise. You take your tongue, your apex of the tongue, and try to move it as fast as you can, touching the heel of the palate, doing something like this. I know it seems funny, but believe me, after some practice, you will understand better the position of your tongue, you will understand better how to pronounce sound r, and after some time you will start pronouncing it correctly. But if you are trying and still there is no results, you can't pronounce this sound, don't be upset. Actually, many natives in Russia also can't pronounce this sound. So the next letter that we're gonna try to pronounce, it will be letter Z, and it's hard sound Z. So for this, we need our apex of the tongue, which we will put up, almost touching the palate, almost touching this heel on our palate. But we again leave some gap so air could go, and we pronounce j, 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 j. The same situation will be the sound sh, which is voiceless pair for j. You'd remember they both are hard sounds. So to pronounce sound sh, we need to put our tongue up, almost touching the palate, sh, 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 and leave some gap so air could go, sh, 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 sh. You'd remember that in previous video I told you that letters sha and sha. They are different and they don't make a pairs, but the sounds of these letters are very close. And as we pronounce sound sh, in the same way we will pronounce sound sh, but in these positions, as it is soft sound, we need to move the body of the tongue up. So to pronounce sound sh, we again put our tongue, the apex, up, almost touching the palate but leave some space, but the body of the tongue also moved up. So we do something like this. Sh, 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 sh. And the next sound, which is pronounced also very close to sh, sh, zh, is sound ch. We also work with our apex, also almost touching the palate, but leave some gap so air could go, and we pronounce ch, 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 ch. The next consonant sound that we're gonna talk about is consonant y. If you watched my video about vowels, which I highly recommend you need to watch this and also learn the main rules of it. You already know how to pronounce sound y, but I'd like to remember you, when we pronounce sound y, works the body of the tongue. The body of the tongue goes up as it is with e. The same position will be with y. The body of the tongue almost touches the palate, but leaves some gap so the air could go, and we pronounce y, 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 y. And the last but not the least sounds that we're gonna talk about, it will be sounds g, k, h. How to pronounce them? To pronounce sound g, we work with our tongue, and here we need the root of our tongue. And the root of our tongue to pronounce sound g goes up and it touches the palate, but it should be done very fast. It's again like explosion. We touch the palate very fast with the root of the tongue and then goes back. So I'd like to remember, to pronounce sound g, we need quite the same position as it is with u. The root of our tongue goes back. If you can't make this movement, try to say firstly e and then try to move your tongue back. You can do it even with your finger. E, and try to remember this position because it is needed also for sound g, g, g. To make sound g, 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 we make the same position, but much more part of our tongue works. We use also the body of the tongue, so all of these parts goes up very fast and goes back. G, 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 g. Very fastly touching the palate. To pronounce sound k, we need the same position of our tongue. We put the root up, touching the palate, and we move our tongue very fast up and back. So we pronounce k, 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 k. Again, something like explosion. K, k, k. To pronounce k, we need more parts of our tongue. We need the body and the root, and we touching very fast the palate and moves back. And the last sound that we're gonna speak about today is sound h and its soft friend h. H. So, how to pronounce sound h and h? It will be quite similar with positions of g and k. Again, works the root of our tongue. But if to pronounce g and k, we need to touch the palate with our root fastly in the position of h. We don't need to touch with the root the palate. We leave some gap so the air could go. We just move the root but leave some air, and we pronounce h, 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 h. And to pronounce h, 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 we need also take the body of the tongue, so works the root and the body much more square of the tongue. And we again put our tongue up, but we are not touching the palate. We leave some gap and we pronounce h, h, h. So that is how we pronounce sound h and h. So lovely viewer, that's it for this video. I hope it was helpful and I hope it wasn't too much hard for you, because as you see, to pronounce Russian sound, you just need to learn a few positions, and many sounds will be pronounced with these positions. So you just learn one position and you can pronounce many of the Russian sounds. Also, lovely viewer, it would be very interesting if you will write me in the comments, was this video helpful and can you now pronounce these sounds? What is still hard? And also I'd like to know, can you pronounce sound r? I know that it is the hardest sound in Russian language, and if you can pronounce, or you can pronounce now because of my exercise and it was helpful, please write me in the comments. But I hope this video was helpful and you liked it. If it is so, don't forget to press all the buttons, you know, bells, likes, subscribes, and so on. And I will see you very soon in my next video, so I could really Russian you. Bye bye, lovely viewer. Bye bye.